Hey friends, it's Carol, Saltbox Stitcher, back for another video, and this is episode, oh my gosh, grand entrance. Coffee.
Oh, what episode is it? All right, a change from all the math stuff.
Thank you.
We're going to go literary. And
Shakespeare.
this is big time corny.
I would expect nothing less, dear.
Well, you'll have to finish this. Roses are red, violets are blue. This is episode number
92.
very good.
How is that literary? Oh, I guess because it's poetic. Okay. So I'm back. Yes, I had a haircut. Yes, it's too short. I don't like my hair this short. But hair grows, right? Even in places you don't want it to grow. Frequently. I have a lot of stuff sitting around. What I've been stitching, things, of course, that I want to stitch. On and on. Okay, so I did some fully finishing. Are you shocked? You should be shocked. So I'm going to show you that first, and I don't have all the patterns I had wanted to. Okay, so let's go. Let me first show you this. I'll go through each one, maybe. Some of them I've done a long time ago. Some of them are newly finished. And then in front of it, I have two pieces. So the first one, I was working on this last time, and I finished it. This is by With Thy Needle and Thread. It's called Bloom Where You're Planted. I fully finished it with some blackbird fabric on the back. So it's Brenda Gervais' design and Barb and Alma's backing.
And where did you get the sawdust to stuff it with?
Oh my gosh. From you, dear. I stuffed it with sawdust. I like it to be as tight as I can, which is kind of a challenge. I spent a good part of a day doing the finishing. I'm going to show you. So this is the first one. Just use some green rickrack. I think it's really turned out cute. Bloom Where You're Planted. I stitched this on, it's an R&R fabric. It's whatever it called for. I think it's a 35 count espresso. Not espresso, but espresso. With the called for threads. And there's some of those little hanging doodahs too, which we all love. Depending on some people might ask, do I carry my threads? Well, depending on how far away and the color of the linen. So some of them you can't tell. I might have carried the thread, but I don't carry from like here all the way to here. That would be silly. Well, maybe not. And I try to do those last. So if I do carry a thread, I won't catch it on anything. So that is Bloom Where You're Planted by With Thy Needle and Thread. This one, this is April Wordplay. I had this finished before, but I didn't like the trim that I had put on it, the cording. So I took it off and I put different cording. This is like two colors of kind of tealy blue. I really struggled with my cording. I've watched videos. I've did the whole, follow the directions. Just, you have to get those little cording tools. It's just a little manual tool. But I was kind of struggling, and I never get mine quite as tight as I'd like to. Anyway, this is April Wordplay, also by Brenda Gervais. And this is my March. I have February, March, and April done, and my goal is to get them all finished the same. Different backings, but the same with the cording. So what I what I do on these is I use 2 pieces of like matte board or that kind of heavier cardboard, not the corrugated, but just the plain cardboard. And sometimes you'll get them with like patterns. Sometimes people ship them. But I use 2 different pieces. So I actually affix the backing to one of them and the cross stitch. Now, I do use interfacing on the back of my smalls. And the reason I do that mostly is because when I fill it with sawdust, I don't want the sawdust leaching out. So I usually do it on the back and the front. And I use Pellon PF44. It's a non-woven fusible. It's real lightweight. Runs like, I don't know, dollar something, 2 something. It's not expensive. I get it at Joann's. So anyway, this is my April, and I recently re-glued the trim on. So that's that. I keep forgetting to get the pattern out for this one. This one used to be sitting here. I can't remember the name of it. It is With Thy Needle and Thread. I finished it as a stand-up. I think it's cute. I wish I could remember the name. It might have the word peep in it, but I'm not sure. So that's in there. This is a piece by Blackbird called Peace Rose. Peace, Peace Rose. This is by Scattered Seed. This is Little Wren. I have a bunch of her designs that I haven't stitched. This is My Rabbit in the Rose by Brenda Gervais. This looks like a Brenda Gervais kind of, and Blackbird. So again, I used sawdust on this one. And this is the one I had in my video last time that I showed how different it was. So if you haven't watched 91, you can see how different it is on different linens, because my friend is stitching it on a kind of a light creamish linen, and the colors are more vibrant on that. Mine are more muted. Rabbit in the Rose by Brenda Gervais. This came out last year, and I just used some of the mini rickrack, and I glue it on. If that's a sin when I get to heaven, then I'll repent. But I'd rather spend my time stitching than to stitch all that. Now, if I was a perfectionist, I would sew it on, but it's just for me, and I don't care. So, Rabbit in the Rose got fully finished. This is by Blackbird, or Scarlet House. Not sure the name of it. Is it Button-Eyed Posy? Something like that. It's something with posy. You know, and sometimes I'm fine. This has got sawdust too. It's not quite as much of a weapon. This is like a weapon. Anyway, sometimes I don't put trim on. Like this one has buttons, and, you know, I think sometimes for me, less is more. So that's just me. I finished my spring Saltbox into that little flat like I wanted. Don't look too close because my rickrack is not the greatest. That's another reason why I like to put something in between, because when you have those 2 pieces of matte board or cardboard, it's nice to be able to fill in. Now, again, if I was a perfectionist, I would sew the 2 pieces together, but I'm not. So I am in some areas, but not with this. Well, it was somebody that I used to, that owned a quilt shop. She said, first of all, if you point it out, you got to take it out. And then she said, and who can see it on a galloping horse going to 40 miles an hour or whatever. So anyway, this is the spring Saltbox. I still have the other one to do. I haven't even started it, but I would like to eventually do all of them. So it looks fun, just tucked into the... And then while I was finishing, I decided to finish a couple other pieces. This is also by Brenda Gervais. Hold on here. Let me get the pattern out. Sorry for the glare. This is called L Genders. L Genders. Oh, I guess I better take it out. I tried to take out most of the things, but some of them I just grabbed the pattern and then I didn't remember to take them out. L Genders, 1875 by Brenda Gervais, and it looks like this. She has it kind of wrapped and tied. I knew I had a spool. I have a lot of spools, but I knew this one would work. Now, on hers, now that I just put the pattern away, on hers, she kind of puts the seam right up to the stitching almost. I wanted it to fit on the spool, so I gave myself, a margin of, I don't know, a scant half, 3/8, something like that. And then I just took some of this, whatever it's called. It's like a overdyed twill tape. Another thing, when I'm at shops, if I remember, I usually try to get some trim, because it's not worth paying shipping a lot of times to get trim. And so if I'm at a shop and I see, the mini rick-rack, a lot of them are by Lady Dot, or even the bigger rick-rack, or the chenille, like this is chenille. Now these, and you can get that tool, the cording is just DMC floss, and you use all 6 skeins when you do it. But anyway, this one, I did not adhere this tie, so if I took it off, you would just see the piece. I did give it a little bit longer margin on the end, and I used ticking on the back. Now, right here, I did go right up to the stitching, but here and here, that way when I wrap it, I don't cover up quite as much of the stitching. It's cute. I thought it turned out pretty good, if I do say so myself. What's Teresa's new book? Humble Hands. That's a goal. Teresa Vanette, Shakespeare's Peddler. I showed that last week. And then I have a lot of unframed and a lot of things that need to be fully finished that are smalls. So I came across these and I decided, let's just finish these. There's still some sawdust on here, so you'll have to excuse me. This is from the Garden Club series by Blackbird. And let me show you. So originally this series I got, Blackbird project bag. Originally this series I got from Old Mill Stitchery, which is now closed. It was in Liberty, Missouri. That's where I started getting all my loose feathers. So when I originally got it, I don't remember if I got the linen. I probably did. But they used to kit it with whatever you'd need of the floss, not necessarily a full skein. So it came out reasonably priced. Let me see if I can find the finished. Anyway, it looks like this when it's done. So originally it was designed to use different linens. And it's called the Garden Club series. I think I still saw this. I saw this still on 123 Stitch. And then you sew them all together and then you frame it or whatever. That's how I started out. And then at some point, I didn't want to stitch them on 32 count with 2 strands. 2 strands isn't harder. It's a little bit more tedious to get your everything to lay nice. Oh my gosh, my hair's too short. Anyway, off the subject. I almost didn't do a video because of my hair so short. And then I was like, how vain is that? That's bad. So anyway, these were done on 32 count with the called for with 2 strands. Now, as I was finishing these, I thought, I really like the look and the coverage. See, the reason I decided to finish them into these little pillows is because, and I only did 2 of them. So here's the 2 that I did. Because I thought, well, I'm going to restitch it on 40 count. And I've seen a lot of people do that. Lisa Kindred Stitcher did a beautiful rendition. And some of the ones that have, there's some of them that have 2 sides, like this one that you could split up. And she split them up and, configured them really cool. But I thought, okay, they've just been sitting around. I thought, well, I should at least finish them into pillows. So there's this one. And this one was on, at that time, called Confederate Gray. Now it's just called Gray. And I used a blackbird on the back, blackbird fabric. And this one, so these were number 1 and 2. My dilemma is now I really like them. And I think, would I like to just have all 12 of them, or 10, however many there are, over with the 32 count? I've given away a lot of my 32 count, so I'd probably have to scrounge to really find some in my scrap bin. But they're not huge. So this was called Apple Orchard, and that one was number 2 in the series. And there's so many cute ones. Here's number 9. I mean, even if you wanted to buy them individually and just stitch them. Here's one that has two different linens. And they also show it on the back in individual pillows. So now I'm in this huge dilemma. So this was number 1. And this one was called Basket of Cherries. I just love this, and I love the coverage. I stitched a lot of blackbird with 2 strands on 30 or 32. I don't think I did very much on 28, but 30 or 32. So, I don't know. Now, I could also stitch some on 40 and just have little pillows that go with it. So that's another idea. But anyway, I wanted to show you. I didn't put anything again on the trim. I might not. I don't know. So I have all the charts, all the floss. What do you think? Go for it. Stitch it on 32. I'm sure I could find plenty of 32 count. I have a friend, the one that I made, her name's Ruth, that I made the cigar box piece for. She can just look at, she worked at so many different cross-stitch stores. She can just look and go, oh yeah, that's 32. Oh, she just looks at it. I'm not that good. I have to count. So anyway, this is my little basket of goodies that I finished, fully finished. How'd I have this? And then I have the bloom and the rabbit and the rose sitting in the front of it. So that's fun. And I was really proud of myself that I did some fully finishing. Like I said, I have a lot. Here's that bloom where you're planted. And then this is the rabbit and the rose. Oops, is that upside down? No. And I showed you that pattern for L gender. So anyway, that is part of what I've been stitching. So I finished the bloom. And then, let me see here. Oh, here's the Saltbox one. And this is one of the things that I want to finish. This one. I was watching Lauren, the New Hampshire Stitcher. She's working on that one. I think she's going to do them all together. I saw somebody that did them all together because there's spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And then they put an alphabet. So they did, so there's 4 times 2, there's 8. So they did 4, put an alphabet, and then another 4. I wish I could remember where I saw that. But anyway. So that was done on Ren, 36 count. So I need to finish the other one. Something else that I need to finish while I'm, I did have a plan to finish whips. I made this for somebody for a gift. Little Stacy Nash little red work pillow. A lot of times people will ask me, what's a good sampler to start with? Start with something like this. It ends up, if you use the, 36 count, it's 6.5 by 4.5. So if you used maybe a 30 or 32, it would be a little larger. It would be frameable. This one is actually designed to do this on the back. So one of them you do straight, and then the other one you kind of do upside down, so that when you turn it, they're both right side up. I didn't do that, but I finished this one and gave it as a gift. And so I'm working on that one again. I just need to finish this. It's like, come on. And I'm using a Silken Colors red. My idea with this is then to distress it when I finish. So that's a small that needs to, a whip that's small. That's what I'm trying to say. This isn't technically a whip because I haven't started it, but kind of. Berry Time. Still haven't done anything on this. This is by Blackbird. It's done with Wild Berries by Classic Colorworks. Here's where I am on this one. Again, just need to finish it. I have a friend that's also stitching this one. Okay, what's next? Here's another thing I started. So now this is a whip. This is the, I have both of them. Samplings number 1 is this one. And samplings number 2 is this one. I think I showed you this last time. Here's the threads for both of them. So some of them are the light and some of them are more the darker. So I started this one. This is fabric that came with, I think I explained all this last time, so I hate to be redundant, but this is this is fabric that came with it that you just use to make an extra egg. So this is the stitch one, and then you use whatever on the back. And I have a teeny weeny start on this. I did start in the middle on this. I don't usually start in the middle, but I started on the middle because of this odd shape. So I'm right here, and I have a teeny start. That's more the color. And I'm using the called for. I don't have the rest of the pattern, but I want to say this one is, one of them's Antique Lace, and I think the other one might be Dusty Road, both by Seraphim. It's whatever it calls for. I don't know if you order that pattern, I don't like that. If you order that pattern, if you still get the fabric that has the alphabets. I don't know if you still do, or if that was just in the beginning. But anyway, cute. So then, what's this? Another one that I need to finish. Let me show you this one while we're talking about eggs. I had this idea, but it didn't come to fruition, but I'm hoping I can finish it by next year. So this is the book Jelly Bean Jubilee. Now, I am not a finisher. I can finish my own things. I would never finish for anybody else because I'm not that great. I don't mind my own imperfections, but no. There's people out there that, Faye Rigsby, Joy, that Brenda sends a lot of things to. They do fabulous finishing. But because I can do my own, I generally do. So this is the book Jelly Bean Jubilee. And this is the piece I was working on, Easter. So I was into these big letters with the bloom and the Easter. They're kind of fun because it's a lot of fill in, but it's fun. So I finished it, Easter. I had this idea. Like I said, I didn't get it finished because it's kind of a production. To take, and you could use, this is an 18 count egg carton, but you could also use a 12 count. To take one of these plastic egg cartons and paint it like off-white. Just spray paint it. That would be a good job for you, dear. He's like, I'm not into spray painting egg cartons. He would, though. Anyway, and then I thought it would be fun to finish this like in a flat and put it up here. And then in the egg part, you could put, you can get those different kind of eggs at Hobby Lobby or whatever. I also used to make dolls and I used to paint eggs. I think they're in storage, but I have this huge bag of wooden eggs, all different sizes. You could put that in there. You could put those, these in there. Just do a whole collage and just have it sitting out. Is that dumb? I thought it was kind of cute idea. You could put some trim around it. You'd want to cover up this if possible. Or you could probably just cut that out so that it's flat. That wouldn't be hard to do. So, we'll see. Maybe next year I might get that done. Okay, so that's my little idea. Oh, and that this piece from Jelly Bean Jubilee was all done with the Bright and Colorful DMC. I did want to finish some other ones in there, and I haven't started, so I probably will put that off till next year as far as finishing some of the other small pieces in there. Then the other thing I need to finish is my May wordplay, which this one's lucky enough to have 2 needles in it. So my May wordplay, also by Brenda Gervais. Here's the picture. It's not that much more. I talked about this last time and you can go back to my last video. I am changing 2 of the colors. The blue in the chart was a more tealy blue, and then the white I'm changing to more of a gray. So those are some smalls that I need to finish and then fully finish, because May is approaching, of which time I'm going to start Patriotic. I'm getting kind of excited for that. Okay. So that's, oh, and here's the threads for May Wordplay. This is the one that I pulled all the threads and then I found them kitted. And so all of them in here are like, there's twos. So that'll be fun to put back. What else have I been stitching? Well, I'll just show you. Where are we? 30 minutes. I'm going to take a quick break because I want to get a little more coffee, and I will be right back.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm back. Got more coffee. There was something I was specifically going to say. That is gone. See, my gray hair right here makes it look like I have these little wings. Oh. The shorter my hair just does its own thing. It's straight as a board, but my gosh, it'll like stick out weird, and it just, the shorter it is, the more, the worse it is. Okay, enough about the hair, Carol. Move on. So what else have I been stitching? Well, I'm really liking my so-called plans, where I'm stitching on smalls as well as simultaneously. And I don't set any big routine. If I have time in the afternoon after I've finished quilting, then I'll start working on a small. If I don't, I don't, And then sometimes if I'm working on a small and then after supper, I'm like, okay, I want to keep working on that. It's not set in stone. But I do also like to have samplers on the go. And I really haven't been able to settle on a sampler. About this time of year, I usually start powering into one specific one to finish it. But so many of mine are so big and have a lot left to do. Although I do have a few that I could go back and work on that maybe are in not the final stages, but the middle stage, or I could power through and finish them. Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few things that I worked on this last 2 weeks. And some of them aren't samplers per se, but they're bigger pieces. Let's see here. I worked on, and again, there's a needle in here, but what's new? Let me move that around. This piece is a little bit of a challenge, and not for any difficulty reason. This is Anne Sandals by Brenda Gervais. I'm kind of on a Brenda Gervais kick, in case you hadn't noticed, with Thy Needle and Thread. I've had this pattern for a long time. I didn't get the guts to the pattern out, but it came out a while ago. Ann Sanders, her work, age 13. Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God, amongst the trees. Among the trees. Anyway, I really like it. So I worked on the border specifically, and I love the border. Let me move this coffee that I just heated so it doesn't end up all over. So I love these flowers on the border. I think last time I had, and this isn't huge, I think last time I had not finished the bones of the border, which are those diagonal lines and the other ones. And here's the flowers up close. They're really pretty. Now, there's a lot of these like extra leaves. Let me see if I can show you. See these extra leaves? You know, they're like here, here, here. You can't really carry. So you have to like, when I say carry my thread, if you don't, maybe not familiar with that terminology, it just means you do some X's here and then you have more X's to do over here. So you just carry your thread instead of tying off or ending and then restarting over here. I will go at the max 2 spaces to carry. I don't like to go any further than that unless, you know, maybe if you have a big flower and then within the big flower there's some, you know, white little spots or something. I sometimes will carry those because they're on top of other stitches, so you really can't see it. The big challenge with carrying thread is once it's framed or finished, you're going to see that thread sticking through. So anyway, I've started on the house. The house is sort of a strange color. So here's my challenge with this. Now, see all these words? They look like a light gray or a light blue. Well, it calls for those to be done in, where is it? I might not have put it in here because I don't think I'm going to use it. Okay, here, hold on. Oh, helps if you get the right ring of thread. It calls for them to be done in parchment. Well, parchment's like an oatmeal color. It's not going to show up on this at all. Well, I don't want a whole verse that's ghosted. So I'm trying to figure out, I think I might do it in this antique lace, which kind of is a light, but it has some gray in it, if you can see that. Well, that was a weird face. You want to see it again? Oh, Lord. The other problem I have is so many of the colors, because this was a while ago, have changed. For example, these two are both toffee. I'm going to use this one because that's like the color of the trees. That to me is too orangey. Okay, check out the difference in these two. This is all both copper. I'm going to use this one. So I've really kind of struggled. I've had to go through my, oh, here's another toffee. So now we have 3 choices. Some people say it's good to have choices. Well, not in every instance. So here's another toffee. Then we had that copper issue. And then I'm going to change the parchment. Oh, here's another issue. Wood rose. And wood rose can be pinkish. It can be tannish. So you can see I'm kind of messed up on it. The other thing is pomegranate. And pomegranate can be anything from pink to red. I did have one that was more red. The color on the house, are you interested in all this? Maybe not. Is supposed to be copper and aged pewter, which would be this. I think I'll do it. I'll just go for it. It's like, why not, you know? The minute I try to start changing stuff is when it really usually ends up a fiasco, so I probably will just go ahead and do it. So I've been working on that, struggling with all of that. And then I had started this one a while ago. This is Brother's Keeper by Plum Street. Cain and Abel is what I call it. It's like a Hawk Run Hollow in that it has the different boxes. And I had barely started this one. And of course, there's a hanging thread. So the first block is right there. Now, it says Cain and Abel, Genesis 4, 1 through 16. The and the Genesis reference, verse reference, are over 1. That's all right. So I finished the block except to do the over 1. And I started the over 1. This is on 36 count. Something. Oh, exemplar. No, vintage exemplar by Lakeside. I had a friend that did it on, she used to be in our stitching group a long time ago, and then she moved. She did this on 40 count. It was gorgeous, and that's where I got the idea I wanted to do it. And at the time, I didn't have any 40 count exemplar. Now I do. I've thought about restarting it, but I don't think I want to do that. I'm happy with 36. It's fine. It's actually a little easier to do the over 1. So anyway, I worked on that. And then I got out, I think I talked about this last time, that I wanted to get back to this one. This is Little Birds by Blackbird Designs. This one I'm doing on 40 count Heartland by Picture This Plus. This one is $3.95 by $3.39. Not for the faint of heart. Little Birds by Blackbird. And I had a little of it done. I'm working on Heartland. 40 count Heartland. Takes a fat half. I had some of it done. I remember having some counting issues on the border. And let's see. These are my threads. I have a beautiful floss ring for this one with the sheep. I think that's from Socks for Mom, Becky. She does beautiful floss rings and scissor fobs and all that. So here's the colors, very Blackbird. So I kind of went to town on this one. Okay, this is, put it away, take it out, take it out, put it away, take it out, put it away. Okay. There's a little tiny gold border inside the big border. It's very easy. It's like 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. All the way around. It looks like sawtooth, but it's not a sawtooth. It's just cross stitch. And of course there's a needle in here. So I decided, since I'd had some issues with counting, this is how big it is, with counting on this border on the side, I decided, well, I'll just, this inner border that's gold is very easy, so I'll just go all the way around with that. So I have a little bit more to do to get down to, where's the bottom border? It's right here. This is going to come across and this is going to come down. Now the bottom border is a little different. It's just a little different, but it's not a big deal. So that's a lot easier to try to, it's easy to count because I just count the threes. It's easy to count the tops of the threes. And there's 88 across and 66 down, just in case you wanted to know that. So anyway, once I get that done, then I can go back and work on this border. And I can also work on some of the bands in between, which I already started that one. This is fun. This almost looks like Legacy because Legacy is very green sometimes. And so is Velt, although Velt's quite a bit greener. That's probably the true color of what it is. It does have a lot of green. I don't care. I like it. And then, oh, these were the threads for Cain and Abel. Are you following me? I'm just rambling on. Oh my gosh. Who knew? Then these two are what I call comfort stitching. When I kind of am like, oh, what am I going to stitch? Not that I lose my mojo. I'm usually pretty much like, I definitely want to stitch. However, sometimes you just don't, I don't like to start new things particularly. And that's part of the reason why I do the border first. Because it's like, I can get in a rhythm, and then once I have the bones of the border, you know, the in and out and all the way around, and I can go back and fill in the flowers later or whatever. But just to start, those first, 50 stitches are kind of, not painful, but they're kind of like, okay, here we go. It's like, have you ever like told yourself, okay, I'm going to walk every single day for 30 minutes, I'm going to get out in the neighborhood and walk until it's 95 degrees and you're sweating yourself and you're like, why did I think this was going to be fun? But when you first start walking, you're like, okay, here we go. 29 more minutes to go. You can tell I don't work out at the gym in more than one way, as you can tell. Anyway, when I get in those kind of, I want to start things because I want to work on them, but on the other hand, I don't really want to start something. And so I don't mind on a small because those go fast. But like a big sampler. Then if I'm in that state of mind, I will go and pick up comfort stitching. And that's usually Blackbird or something that has a lot of fill in. Or continuous stitches. I do not like to do projects that are like really tiny little motifs, and every time you turn around, you're changing colors. 6 stitches here, 4 stitches there, 6 stitches here, 3 over here, 5 here. It's like, give me a section. Is that even clear? I have no idea. Anyway. The Blackbird Little Birds fit that comfort stitching vibe, I guess. And then I got out my Jane Atkinson. I need to finish this. She's gorgeous. I've got a lot of time invested in her, so it's by Scarlet Letter. I'm using the Avera Soie silks, which I love. However, if you have to frog anything, the silks don't always frog real well. Yeah, they end up getting fuzzy and they end up getting worn out. In other words, you can't reuse a strand that you've frogged part of. So, I've shown this 100 times. But I did make some progress. So, I went all the way around with that black border. Now, it's kind of an inner border here. I think I was to about here, and I was to about here. And then it matched. And the rest of it, there's not a border that really matches. There's flowers on the bottom, flowers on the side. And then I started working on the bottom grass. And now that I have the other side, I started working on the bottom grass there. So this... Golly, this is hard to hold. This whole section here is going to be this grass. I don't mind that at all. That's just like, love it. All the way across there. To me, it's mindless. And I stitch in hand. A lot of people ask me, do you use a frame? Do you use a hoop? What kind of frame do you use? None. I actually have a frame that I used to use a long time ago when I did some needlepoint. I've never used it for cross stitch, but I guess I could. I guess I could at some point if I had to. I might end up doing that when I do my Ann Ufendel, all that freehand embroidery that I showed you last time. Or I might just use, I have tons of hoops because I used to hand quilt. I don't hand quilt anymore because it's Too painful. My hands are wearing out. In fact, my hands hurt the worst after I long arm quilt. So if I take a few days off and I still cross stitch, they don't bother me. I don't know what I do when I long arm quilt. I mean, you hold the, handles, but anyway, you don't really care about that, do you? Okay, I need to get going here. So, I pulled some things, both smalls and samplers, when I was just talking about not wanting to start things. But I definitely want to work on some of these. And I told you all the way through April, I'm going to continue to work on spring. Today's actually the 13th, Thursday. You probably won't see this video till Saturday or Friday, Saturday. My husband has to work today, so I don't know when he'll be able to start editing. But anyway, again, you don't care. So here's some of the smalls. This one was one that I got kitted from Country Sampler. PA, I guess it's Pennsylvania Dutch. Tomato pin keep. I'm not going to take that out because it's all kitted so nice. It's new. It just came out at market. Comes with the wool and the velveteen. A lot of people call this velvet, but technically this isn't velvet. This is velveteen. But, who has to be technical? It's done with vintage country mocha. I got it kitted from Country Sampler. Call them if you want this kitted. This is one that I should have done 100 years ago. And I got it out. Saltbox Quilt Sampler. I mean, it's like my namesake. Anyway. I also would like to do some of the little smalls there, which is just taking the... I'd love to do this one. Like within the... Do this and then also do a small with that house. Because it's a salt box. So someone graciously, and you know who you are, sent me the Golden Oats by Silk Weaver that it calls for. I did not have this linen, so Silk Weaver's wonderful linen. And then it calls for DMC and some other things. It doesn't have a real bright red. Here's your pinkish reds. So I may just start this. I have the box. I have everything. It's all kitted, ready to go. Ready to go. So I might start that. And this has a flag on it, so technically this could definitely be a small in May. I don't hold myself to those kind of strict. Do I look like the type of person that does that? No, I'm not. This one I think I showed you last time. This is a Brenda Gervais called Blessings Be Thine. This might get started today even. I love this. Again, kitted. This is really cute. Now this one I would definitely start with the blessings and go across and then start working my way down on the flowers. So many people don't like... Oh, and it's kitted with... I kitted it with the called for. Something just went flying. I think it was a thing of Valdani. 35 count espresso. Now, this is a lot different than the espresso I use for Bloom. So I must have used the other side because this is like stronger color on one side. I'm going to use that side with the stronger color. That's the plan. I have this Robins one. I showed you this last time. This is a new market release from Brenda Gervais. I'm definitely on a Brenda Gervais kick. She has fabulous designs. It's called The Robins Are Here. Just came out at market. Am I showing things long enough? Did I show this one long enough? I'm sorry. It's just cute, and I have all of the stuff. Okay, so back on my L genders, you know, the little roll-up thing on the spool. That's what this stuff is. It's called linen braid trim. Now, it was a different color because it had been like over-dyed. This is like kind of a grayish. Linen braid trim. And on this one, she uses it for the bow on the basket. It does really motivate you when you do some fully finishing, like I did there. And I know if I got things framed, it would be even better. I got this one out just, I don't think I'll start this, but I love the verse. Again, Brenda Gervais, this is Anne Dickinson, 1819. This one came out in 1819, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't have a date on here. 259 by 293. This isn't small. But the verse says, the grass is green, the rose is red. This may be seen when I am dead. Oh, my. Anne Dickinson. I just love this little village down here at the bottom. This one calls for iced cappuccino, 30 count by R&R. I'll use 40. And it's all DMC. Cool. Everybody and their brother has done this one. Rejoice Evermore. Everything I need is all inside, all inside here. The Antique Lace by Seraphim. I love Seraphim fabrics. The dye lots can vary, so you kind of have to be careful. And there's the threads for that. This is Every Opening Flower. This just came out. And I was watching Christy Crosshatch Quilts. Love to see you again, Christy. We're missing you. She did some changes. Instead of doing it on the Winter Brew, which is this, she's doing it on Buttercream, which is a little more yellowy. It's a Lakeside. And she changed some of the colors. She didn't change them. I made a note. She darkened the reds, is what I'm trying to say. And I wrote down mulberry, chili pepper, and terracotta were the three reds that she used. They used wood rose, mulberry, and used brick. So she just intensified the reds, which I might do. I made a little note of that. If you watch her last video, she talks about it. So that's the Winter Brew. We'll see. I haven't pulled threads for that. I'd love to do this one. This is The Maker and the Mender by Brenda Gervais. The needle, be it though so slim and slender, is both a maker and a mender. This one calls for Barb's Blend, which was kind of in memory of Barb, of Almond Barb. It's a very, very light gray. To me, this looks like it's more of a tan or a warmer color, so I'm not sure I'll use that, but we'll see. I haven't pulled the threads. I came across this one when I was pulling out my little birds, and I love this. Humming of the Bees by Blackbird. So many things. I think I want to start this. This is done with Legacy. I had a number of pieces, but I pulled my 36 count Legacy. Legacy can be, Picture This Plus can be a tighter weave. And here's I think I'm missing a few colors, so I need to go through here. Colonial Rose. Yeah, I'm missing. No, that's Colonial Rose. Yeah, I'm missing Used Brick, some of the others. I have those threads. I just haven't pulled them yet. Typical Blackbird. I call it Vintage Pretty. And it is from a reproduction, but of course they modify it. There's the reproduction. And there's the Humming of the Bees. I think this came out last year. 2022, yeah. I've told you before, I have enough that I could just stitch Blackbird continuously. This came out at Market from Brenda Gervais with a needle and thread. Mary Ann Hop. I don't know if that's a C or an H. Cop, yeah, Mary Ann Cop. This one is done on American Chestnut, and I have a piece of that. Now it calls for a 20 by 22 piece. I don't know if I think I have a fat half. Sometimes I can fit them. You know, a lot of times designers will allow you a 3-inch margin when they say how big of a piece to get. I will a lot of times go with a 2-inch margin, and that little bit of difference can mean a smaller cut of linen. Plus, I stitch in hand, so I don't need enough for a hoop or a Q-snap. I started to talk about that before. I never finished. People ask me if I use a frame or a hoop. And I went off on a tangent about having a frame when I used to do needlepoint. Oh my. I don't use either of those. I stitch in hand, which means, now, I know people that stitch in hand, but they still poke and stab. I stitch in hand, and yes, I hold all of this like this in my hand, and I stitch. So I'm like, I don't have glasses on, so this is a challenge. I'll probably have to take that. So I just stitch with my hands, just like I'm sewing. So what I do is called stitching in hand, because I'm just holding it, and a sewing motion. Like I said, I have a friend, and she goes in, and then she pulls it, and then comes out, and then she goes down. So she's poking and stabbing, but she's holding it in her hand. So there's all kinds of versions, too. I always stitch from right to left. Some people stitch in hand, and they kind of make a motion like this. I call that digging. I guess that's not a real nice way to say it, but it's like they're going like this. I go like this. Clear as mud? Good. I was into my Brenda Gervais. This one I have all ready to go. Elizabeth Hunt. I have the linen. I coffee dyed the DMC. This has a gorgeous border. Look at that border. This is Elizabeth Hunt, 1845. So, you know, Plum Street, and I haven't even gotten out some of her things lately. I'm afraid to. And then another one that I really want to do, and is all kitted, is Caroline Amelia Trowell. A lot of people have finished this one. She has some chalkware sheep on the back. That's what that guy is, right back there. He's a chalkware sheep. Lamb. I love this. I love these people. They're just funky. Oh, look at this guy's knees. Is that not a crack up? And this is also from a antique. So definitely would like to start that one. That is on Antique Lace as well by Seraphim. I have all the parts and pieces. So many things, so many things. Aren't we blessed, though? We're blessed to be able to live in a time period with all this. I was watching some of, I love Susan Stanley's Stitch in Time videos, and sometimes I'll go back and watch some of her older ones. She was talking about how precious the needle was. I'll tell you, we have needles galore. You have them in almost every project. Then I went to my Brenda Keys, which is the sampler company, and pulled out 2. This one's not kitted, but she uses all DMC. I love this. This is, the name of this one is the Plymouth Sampler. Love that. This could be a start. It's just a cream even weave. She calls for 28 count. I don't think this is over 1, but it could be. I think it's, I'm not going to do it over 1. Okay, it's sealed, so I haven't even opened it yet. But now it calls for even weave, so it might be over 1. But the stitch count is 257 by 129. So if you used 40 count, that would be like 12 by 6 or 6.5 by 12.5, which would be a nice size to frame. And then this was a candidate last year for my January stitch, the Sampler Company. And this one is called, she doesn't put the names on the outside, the Country House Sampler. I'm pretty sure I saw this on Tanya Brockmeyer's wall. She has it finished. I love this. It's ready to go. I have it with some 40 count Old Town Blend. I don't know if that's going to be too dark. I might go to something a little bit lighter. Although it has white. Oh, I also have a piece in here of, what's this goodie? American Chestnut. I might use the American Chestnut. You need to have something that the whites, some of the whites are going to show up. And it's, again, all DMC. Then I have all my whips, which I did count recently. And I think I have 40-ish, which I didn't think was too bad, considering I used to think I had 80. Some I finished. Some aren't really whips. I just... If you have 6 stitches, it's like, is that really a whip? Probably not. So I marked some of those as not really whips. Oh, that's a lot of crinkling. I had one other question someone have I answered? Oh, yeah, about whether I used a hoop. Okay, I had one other question. And I'm hoping sometime in May we can do a quilt video and a quilt sale. I've been so busy with quilts, and it just seems like my weeks just fly by. If I quilt 3, sometimes 4, but mostly 3 days a week, and then I get together with friends on 1 or 2 days a week, and then there's church, and then there's Saturday baseball games, and it's like life just, it's like you're on a treadmill. Not really. But I had mentioned that I was working on a quilt with 976 triangles. And someone asked me what it was. So I thought I'd show you. It's by Country Threads. It's called the Vermont Quilt. And yes, those are all half-square triangles. It's beautiful. Now, lest you think I cut and sew and trim all those down, I don't. I have been using these star singles. I know if you're a quilter, you're like, oh, I mean, if you're not a quilter, you're like, yeah, whatever. I love these. I've tried triangles on a roll. I've tried a lot of things. But what you basically do is you start here. You follow the lines and you just keep sewing around and around and around and around and around. You cut apart on the solid lines. And you end up with 8 half-square triangles. So you only need to do 122 of these. I mean, you know, I probably have a good 20 or 30 done, so just in case you're curious. I think that's all I have, and I have a huge mess. But I am finished. So I will see you maybe in a couple weeks, Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. So I will end on that note. I don't think there's anything else. Do you have any wise words? Got him off guard.
I'll help you clean up this mess.
Okay. Yeah, you believe that? Okay, so spoiler alert. Last time he was going to go fold the laundry. For those of you that think that he brings me coffee, he folds the laundry. Now, he does make my coffee in the morning. It's the Keurig. He pushes the button. But that's very kind, and it's always nice and ready for me when I get up. But he did not fold any laundry.
I was busy doing the dishes.
Those of you who believe all that are gullible. Okay, thanks. I'll see you again later in 2 weeks or so. Bye. Love you.